Hi, I'm Daisy Startup. I'm here interviewing Tim Lott and he's going to tell us something about this book.
Thanks, Daisy. Hi, I'm Tim Lott, as Daisy said, and I'm going to say a few words about my book Fearless. And it's a kind of book for adults and children, and it came to me about 6 years ago when I was telling a story to my goddaughter, and I started to write it down when I got home, and I just couldn't stop, and I kept writing it for the next 6 years. And in the end what I ended up with was a kind of cross between a fairy story and a kind of fable, I suppose, about a group of girl friends who are in an institute full of 1,000 girls who are all locked up outside a city.
Were the girls ever allowed out the institute?
No, never.
Ever?
Never.
They were just there for life?
They were there. Well, the idea was that when they became women, now I never defined what it is to become a woman, but when they became women, they would go back to the city if they were well behaved enough. But what really happened, they discovered at the end, was that they were just taken to another institute as for adults, and they were used as labour in their wars against the terrorists. So actually, no, they never did get out. So it was a kind of life sentence.
Do you have an idol in your writing?
Yes. Well, for this, I mean, I have a number of idols, but George Orwell is my idol. I mean, if you read George Orwell, loved fairy tales, and he kind of wrote fairy tales to a certain extent. His two most successful books, 1984 and Animal Farm, were both kind of fairy tales, and I very much was influenced by him. Also, Oscar Wilde, whose fairy tales like The Selfish Giant and The Happy Prince, I found incredibly moving, when I read them. I mean, I kind of, I'm a kind of tragic person who likes this. I like sad stories, and I like sad songs. I mean, I find something very lovely about tragedies, I suppose. I don't know if that makes me a sicko, but I find these things very beautiful.
Why did you use such a stereotypical job for the girls to do in the institute?
Well, I think because it's about exploitation, and I gave them a demeaning task to do. The fact that it was a laundry isn't really about them being girls and girls washing clothes, though I can see that you would see it that way. But I mean, what it's really about is it's a metaphor for washing away the sins of the city. It's getting the clothes clean. Is how the city unloads their guilt by sending it to a laundry. It's poetic image, really. I don't mean it. I don't mean any disrespect to the female gender by putting them in a laundry. I'm not suggesting that all girls are best in laundries, but this is in a world in which perhaps who knows what happens in this world.
Will you write any other children's books?
I hope so. I mean, if enough people buy Fearless, that'll be a real encouragement. When I was a kid, they used to have these things called the Book of Wonder. The boys' book of wonder, usually it was, not girls, boys' book of wonder. And it had things just like, why is the sky blue? Simple questions that I never really knew the answers to, and I still don't in many ways. Why is the world round? I don't know. And I'd love to sort of write a book about that. With 4 children, I have to do what will pay me a reasonable amount of money. Contrary to what anybody thinks, writing books is very badly paid, and you have to do it because you have to do it, not because it makes you a fortune unless you're J.K. Rowling. Please, God, let me one day be J.K. Rowling.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daisy. It was lovely talking to you.